something crosses the road. It's skeletal, light, fleshy, and it stands up, and then it like kind of just almost like leaps.
They look back and they see one. Clear as day. It walked 5 feet away from my audio recorder. We just saw a Bigfoot. Holy crap.
I've been pinched, I've been tapped on the shoulder, I've had my name hollered, a hand came up underneath my left arm. I said, little son of a bitch tried to get me. That was the time that I decided you don't sleep inside that building.
Did you see that?
The cow cur, it's big, it's white, and it runs faster than any man could ever run. And he would lean out behind the tree. And that's why we never go out, because the booger will get you.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Exploring the Unknown. I'm Dustin.
I'm Luke.
And we are your hosts with the most ghosts. Today we have on Frater Crow, a diabolist, paranormal researcher, and host of Knights of the Nephilim radio and Pair of Normal Guys. But first, we got some podcast mentions. Luke?
Yeah, go check out our website, exploringtheunknownpod.com. At the website, you can contact us with any encounters that you had and have a chance to come on a future episode. And we also have a blog on our website, which gets updated every week. And affiliate links. We have 2 links in the description below. One's Amazon and one's GhostStop. If you purchase anything through those links, it will help support the podcast. And if you don't want to do that, you can also go to our Cash App and PayPal, which is also on our website, and donate through Cash App or PayPal. And right in the description of what it's for, a would you rather question, and we will explore that on a future episode. And go check out our YouTube if you haven't already. Subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications for every time we post something. And PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure, September 6th and 7th, we will be in Farmington, PA. I'm recording podcast, selling merch, and scheduling podcasts for the future.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add?
I don't believe so. So now back to Frater Crow. So, like I said, Frater Crow is a diabolist and a seasoned paranormal researcher with a deep expertise in the occult. Frater delves deep into the hidden realms of the supernatural, exploring the dark and mysterious corners of our world. And today, he will share his insights on the occult and recount his recent chilling experiences with the paranormal. So get ready for a journey into the unknown as we uncover the secrets and stories that lie beyond the veil with Frater Crow.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
Well, thank you guys for having me on the show. I don't know if we're officially started and we clip it from here, or if you guys...
Yeah.
We'll clip it.
Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. No, I'm good, man. Thank you guys for having me on this evening to your program. I look forward to shooting the breeze with the two of you and telling you a little bit about myself. I know, Luke, you already know me, but telling you guys a little bit about myself, what I do, what I've experienced. It's been a fruitful life and wild adventure in the spiritual realm.
That's awesome. Yeah, Luke's told me a little bit about the things that you get into. You got a lot that you dived into.
Yeah, I've been involved in spiritualism since roughly the age of 5 or 6 when I had my first encounter with spirit. But not only in a paranormal sense and going out and investigating and doing research, but since the age of 14, I've been an occultist. So I've spent a great deal of my life in ritual and dealing with spirits in a very different sense. So not just going out and seeing what's there, but rather pulling them to my location, pulling them to my ritual circle or triangle, and communicating with them there and calling very specific entities that are of different natures, different realms and planes. So it is both fruitful, both mind expansive, but both very different in one another. They can intermingle a little bit. They call it into paranormal into the occult, but they are kind of their own separate realms for the most part.
Yeah. Was it like an experience that you had at a young age that kind of set this all off?
So when I was roughly 5, in my childhood home, which was in Ford City, Pennsylvania, it was an old factory town. PPG originally started in Ford City, Pennsylvania, and at that time it was the biggest glass factory in the world. And they were right along the river in Ford City, just this tiny small town. And a lot of the homes in town were built for the workers. They were smaller homes, and then you had the larger scale homes for the bosses and managers. And my house happened to be one of the big bosses of the company. And at that time, they considered my home a mansion. Now, it's funny, like when my family lived there, it wasn't a mansion. It was just a big Victorian home. But back then, that was actually a mansion. Now, there's some history behind that house, but I'd only ever grown up in that house at the time. My brothers and my mom and dad had lived at other places, but we moved there, and my mom still lives there to this day. And around 5 years old, my mom was taking a bath. I was playing with Matchbox cars on the bathroom floor, and I happened to see something out of the peripheral of my vision. And when I looked up down the hallway, there was an old man standing down at the end of the hallway staring directly at me, and I froze. And it's weird because when we look back on our lives and we say, what is the earliest memory you have? That is one of, if not the earliest memory I hold in my entire life, is seeing a full body apparition. So it's kind of interesting to look back and say, what's your first memory you remember seeing a full body apparition? But when I looked down, he was standing there staring at me, and I froze, and it caused this anxiety, this fear inside of me. That my mom's like, "What's wrong?" And I couldn't talk. And then finally I blurted out, "There's a man in the hallway." Well, that scared the shit out of her because, she's in the middle of getting a bath at the time. I'm a little kid. There's no one else home. It's just the two of us. There's a man upstairs. It wasn't like we were near the front door. I mean, we're the whole way on the back side of the house. Someone would have had to really been in the house. So, she's jumping out of the tub. She's running around the house looking for someone that isn't there. And that was the pivotal moment that changed so much in my life, because not only was that my first experience with the paranormal, but it tore open the veil for me, where from that point forward, I began to see, hear, and feel spirit continuously the rest of my life up until this point. Nothing has ever really been the same. It just opened something for me. And, that's, I think also, I didn't begin the occult for many years later, roughly 9 years, but I think that's where the seed of occultism was born in me as well, because I went to Catholic school as a child. And after that moment, I started asking questions that I never asked before. Started asking the priests and the nuns, well, I seen a spirit in my house. I seen a guy that walked through a wall. What is it? Well, then I started being told, you didn't see that. Or if you did, it was evil. And I'm like, well, it didn't seem like he was evil. He just kind of stared at me and he walked through the wall. He was just there. And, and being told, well, no, you didn't actually see that, kind of pissed me off, because I'm like, no, I did. And then I started to question my elders. I'm like, wait a second. I'm told to put all my faith, not only as an elder, not only as your teacher, but this is people of faith that you're supposed to follow as well. And I'm like, and they're telling me I'm either wrong, I'm lying, or it's evil. And I don't think it's any one of those three. Mm-hmm. So I think that was the moment that I kind of took a step back and said, I'm not jiving with what's being told to me here. What else is wrong? What else am I being taught that maybe is being very skewed? And you got to think, I was a young child. I was only 5, but that's when I started asking a lot of other questions. A lot of questions that got me in trouble. A lot of questions that weren't deemed appropriate for Catholic school. So that caused the wedge in me. And as I grew, my distance to the faith grew. My interest in the paranormal And the esoteric grew and grew and grew until I hit high school. And then I was the weird kid. You know what I mean? I was the kid that everybody talked about. They're like, that one over there, everybody loved me. I got along with everybody, but everyone was like, he's strange, man. He's in graveyards at nighttime, and, you know, he wears all black, and he's into, you know, Satanism and all kinds of other stuff. I was the kid that people kind of pointed out. We're like, we don't really understand him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm curious. Like, what is occultism? Like, what's the belief there?
Well, so it's a vast span when you use that term. So occultism really just means hidden. Same as esoteric. Esoteric is hidden knowledge. Now, occultism can span everything from Christian mysticism to Kabbalism, which is the mystics of Judaism, to Sufic beliefs, which is the mystics of Islam. So all that's Abrahamic faith, but you have what's called esoteric and exoteric. Exoteric is the dogma. It's what's taught in church, what's taught in the temple, what's taught in the synagogue. But beyond that, there's a deeper level, the esoteric level, the hidden spirituality. So you got to think like Christian mysticism is very deep. It deep dives into the Bible, what things mean beyond what most everybody knows or has been taught. And that's just the Abrahamic faith. So all that would be considered occultism or esoteric belief. But then you have all kinds of other sides. You have Hermeticism, you have Luciferianism, Satanism, Diabolism, Gnosticism. You have a lot of different belief systems that follow a code or an understanding of the world, of spirit, of energy, that is beyond the normal mundane understanding or comprehension that everyday folks live with. So for me specifically, my belief system is I am a diabolist. I work with what a lot of people would call demons, but you have to define where do we place our understanding in demons, because that's a vast subject, and I think what a lot of people believe demons are, they're not. But my belief, my system is I study, I research, and I practice ritual with energies that I call in and communicate with. And through communicating with them, you do build a rapport, you do build an alliance of sorts. But it is very much different than what movies portray. It's different than what you hear a lot of people out there talking about. The problem is, just like anything, occultism and esotericism is going to have a lot of people faking the funk. And what I mean by that is you're going to have a lot of people pretending to be occultists, a lot of people telling you that they're doing these things that are not, a lot of people dressing the part, speaking the part, doing all these things. They're LARPing, they're putting on a costume, and they're pretending to be something to get fame and buzz. And you know, it sets a certain type of understanding. So like when the general public hears it, they have kind of this ooky spooky feeling, or I think I know what that's about. Usually that's not the case. I mean, when you work with a spirit, I'm not naive enough to think that they're your friends. I understand that it's a contractual agreement. When you work with a spirit, you call them forward. You usually make an offering. You give them something of sustenance, whether it be food, liquid libation offerings, some type of offering to them as an energy booster. Those things boost their energy to be able to come through stronger, and they enjoy that. They like being in the material plane and interacting with physicality, with physical objects. And you can ask for things. You can make pacts with them. You can make agreements with them where I'm asking you to assist me in these things, and in return, I give you these things. Very much a business agreement. Suits every day, shake hands in a boardroom, and they make agreements, right? It's the same type of deal, and it's as simple as that, but it's as complex as that at the same time. And people don't understand, oh, you're selling your soul. They don't want your soul. We're all souls. We're all souls. You can't sell it. You're always a soul. So, you know, when it comes to occultism, it's just about knowing and understanding the world a little bit differently through ancient formula. There's what's called the perennial philosophy. Perennial philosophy is behind all religions, behind all faith bases. There is a common thread that connects all of them. They might have different names, different stories, different mythos, but at the end of the day, they're all telling pretty much the same story in different format. And these stories, these characters, these myths are ways of interpreting energies and working with them by giving it a name, by giving it a form, by giving it a background. you can then bring it to life. Doesn't mean, guys out there listening, it does not mean that the spirit is not real. But we have to define what real is. You are able to use these structures. People understand stories by hearing it, by seeing it, by understanding it, by getting those pieces of stimuli. You are able to use your energy and will, your imagination, but not imagination in the sense that you're making it up. Imagination in the faculty that when you let your imagination open with your will and determination, with these energies that are naturally lay-lying in the world, it is a combustion. You provide the spark. The natural ley line energy will provide the fuel. It combusts. When it explodes, under the right circumstances, that painting, that spirit look, its identity, its background is being cast from you on top of that combustion, and it brings to life a spirit. Doesn't mean the spirit is not real. It can affect you. It can affect this world. It can harm you if it were to choose to. But you are very much a part of the creation of that spirit, as that spirit's a part of the creation of you. It's a conundrum, and it takes a while to understand that and adapt to it. Sometimes a normal person will hear that and say, what is this guy talking about? I promise you it's legit. It's just you have to peel back the onion a little bit of your own mind to start to get these concepts.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's really interesting. That it kind of reminds me of something. A while back, I was in my garage, and I was on the phone. It was late at night. And me and my mom, we get into these deep spiritual conversations.
Up a little bit.
Oh no, there goes my internet connection. Can you hear me okay now?
Damn internet.
Right? But we get into these deep spiritual conversations, and something that we talk about regularly is the ego. And I thought about, and you're familiar with that, correct?
Absolutely.
So I had thought, wonder what my ego looks like. And in that moment, I started to form an image in my mind of what I thought my ego looked like. So much so that I felt like it was behind me. Like I almost, I could feel like the breath of it on the back of my neck. And it was not a very pretty image. It scared the hell out of me. It really did.
Well, you got to understand that the ego, so the problem is that we are high spiritual beings in low material bodies. And, you know, if you want to look at it, the higher you go in frequency and vibration, the lighter you get, the lesser density that's there. The lower vibration and frequency, the more dense you are. So we are godlike beings in flesh. And the second that you were put into this flesh, the second you were born, you take your first breath, the doctor smacks your ass and you start crying. The second you take that breath and open your eyes, every single thing that you come into contact with is a way of programming you, whether it's malicious and someone's trying to lead you a certain way, or it's just the color blue. Everything you see is going to change who you were a moment ago to who you are now. We don't think about that because we're so far along our journey at this point that there's been billions and billions of moments. But everything as a child, when you come in, you're so pure. That's why when you look into a baby's eyes, they're different than an adult's eyes by far. When you look into their eyes, it almost looks like you're looking into the universe, because they are a cosmic being that just was put into this flesh, and all they see is endless possibility. They are not programmed yet. But over time, being told what's nice, what's bad, what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, what's light, what's dark, you know, what you should like, what you shouldn't like, all of these things, it starts to create this character. And what we are all doing is we're playing on this major stage called life. We're all playing the character who we were given the script for. And the script is made up of everything that we've come into contact with. And we form these egos. And the egoic self is the character of who you believe you are. If I sit back and say, I am Frater Crow, well, I am, but at the same time, I'm absolutely not. That is merely the character that I adopted during this incarnation. And when I die, my body will fall and rot. My ego will fractalize and it'll stay behind. And I'm only sharing my opinion, guys, but the ego, once it drops, that is what most ghosts are. And we can get into that. But what most ghosts are the abandoned, detached psyches of the people that roam this earth. And then the spirit goes on. So your spirit is your higher super consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Your soul is your psyche. In fact, if you go back linguistically in history, psyche and soul are the same word. So psyche and soul, that's where they derive from. Your soul is your ego, it's your psyche, and then you have your flesh. So those are the three, and you can get actually into more than three, but we'll just keep it simplistic for three. So abandoning your ego is huge. You can't kill it. You'll see a lot of religions and things like, Hinduism and stuff will talk about destroying the ego. Well, you can. I think it's more appropriate to say sever it. You sever the ego and you still play it. You separate yourself so far back that you can look at it and say, oh shit, that's not me. But I am able to, now that I know it's not me, wear it and become a master of it. Master of disguise. But when you're attached to it, we're pulled down to our animal lusts, our animal desires, or who we, like, what we don't like. And the way you can do this, and I've taught a lot of students this over time, is the act of mindfulness. And we're actually doing that through my cult coming up. We publicly made a page recently to just share tidbits of information with people. By no means is it what our normal practices are. It's just kind of a public thing we do to give back. But we're going to be doing a 2-week mindfulness, but this one's going to be mindfulness of death. Now, what this means is I want people to take it seriously, and for 2 weeks that whoever joins this class will reflect on death and on mindfulness of everything that they do during every day for 14 days. And I'm talking everything from driving to work to talking to your spouse to taking a shit. I don't care. You are going to sit and step aside from yourself and view yourself outside of yourself and say, why do I talk the way I do in certain ways? Why do I like this but not? Because how often does someone offer you something and say, oh no, I don't like that? But if you step back and look, you're like, do I really not like that? Or have I just been saying that for years? And then you try it and you like it. And you're like, oh, why the hell have I been hating it all this time? Because you're programmed. That is a part of your character you're wearing. So we're going to do a 2-week, but specifically on death, where in every moment for 2 weeks, I want people to imagine and understand that your death is standing right behind you. At any moment, it can be it. The second its icy fingers touch you, it's lights out. So every moment, how do those 2 weeks compare to the rest of your life? During those 2 weeks, if you do it right, you should notice a huge change in yourself, because every moment, if this is my last moment right now, how am I going to act? What am I going to say? Who am I going to be? What do I want my last moment to be? And how do I observe myself? And I guarantee anybody that takes it seriously at the end of those 14 days will come to some shocking realizations about themselves and probably never be quite the same going forward. And that's the whole point. It severs and causes a chasm between your true self and your egoic self.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This is what I was telling telling Taylor the other day, Luke, about becoming the observer and stepping back and just taking a look at everything from a different perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important, guys. Very important. I mean, it's one of the most important things you can do. Mindfulness, like I said, is what I call it. And it's just, like I said, how often do you argue with your partner over something so meaningless? It's just old patterns. Oh, they poked at me and I just snapped out and started yelling. They yelled, and it's over dumb stuff. You know what I mean? Like 10 minutes later, everybody's fine again. But if you were to step back from yourself, you'd look at yourself and say, how incredibly useless was that? Why did I waste that much energy? How did I let something so minuscule upset me so much? Because you have to understand, you are the master of your world. No one can do anything to you. You can only do it to yourself. And I have a lot of people argue and say, no, people have done things to me. Well, sure they have. But how do you interpret it and analyze it? When someone says something that offends you, if you get upset and cry, if you get upset and yell, if you just do nothing, each one of those is your choice. You decide how to take that stimuli and react to it. So once you truly master that, nothing can affect you. People can do things to you that normally you would have snapped out, fought them, got crazy. Now you can sit there in complete peace. That's the Buddhist way, where nothing affects them. Why does nothing affect them? Because they are the master of their world. Mindfulness.
Absolutely.
No, it's definitely interesting. I've been going through some struggles with the religion lately. I was like, I don't know what to believe. After doing all these podcasts and opening up my mind a little bit more, it's like, what do I believe? I'm not sure if I really believe in the Bible anymore. And I do believe there's a higher power, but like, is it really what they say it is?
Well, you know, you have to understand this, Luke. You don't have to know now. See, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's another program right there. There's so many people say, like, I have to know what I believe now. Why do you? You are constantly, 6 months from now, you will be a
Mm-hmm.
different guy than you are right now. 6 years from now, you certainly will be.
Mm-hmm.
Why would religion and faith and spirituality be any different? If you are doing it right, you are constantly evolving and changing. Your religion is constantly evolving and changing, your spiritual
Mm-hmm.
beliefs in your mind. Let it change. Find what resonates with you now. Put your time and energy and your faith into it and believe it, but don't shut the doors to the church and block your stuff out to the outside world. Leave them open. See who wanders into your life. See who wanders out of it. See what changes happen and watch how that changes and evolves your belief. The thing is people get so set in religion. The problem with religion is religion is merely a comic book for us to understand the spiritual powers of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Every culture has their own comic book and gods. Zeus is the god of lightning and lives on Olympus. And then you go over here and they got another god. And you have, you know, Christianity obviously has Yahweh and it has Jesus. They're just ways of telling these amazing allegorical stories through characters that, like I said, we are gods in flesh. We are this primordial source inside of flesh. And when we die, we stay spirit, you know, we stay
Mm-hmm.
soul. Now, by understanding stories, by understanding characters and those attributes, like I said, you put your faith and your time and your energy and your will into it, they will create something back. So religion's a way of making characters up that can interact with you in certain ways, but like I said, they become very real. It's the concept of egregoric beings and archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
These are archetypes are a thing where there's 10 different Satans in the world. You know, you have Typhon and Set of the ancient Egyptian culture. You have Samael and Satanas and Satan, you know, of the Hebrew sect. You have all these, you have Mephistopheles, you have Asmodeus, you have all these different spirits from different pantheons, Ahriman, or Angramenu, and all these different spirits that really are satanic kind of archetypes. They're all the adversary. There always is the bad guy. There's always the
Mm-hmm.
good guy. There's always these side characters. You know, that's how human beings understand spirituality. How we understand who we are, what we're capable of, and the things around us are by painting all these amazing stories and pictures. I joke around sometimes, what if we were able to go back and find out all the religions of the world that are ancient right now
Mm-hmm.
were just comic books that we discovered and didn't realize they were? What if like people were sitting down, you know, like DC Comics and Marvel Comics and them? Imagine that him making all these stories and then it being locked into a vault, and 6,000 years from now, people find it and they don't know anything about our culture. And they're like, there was the god, the Flash, and he was super fast. He went everywhere. And there was
Mm-hmm.
this god from Krypton named Superman. And they start worshiping it. Superman, Superman, come save us. The thing is, if you put enough time, belief, and effort and will into it, you would start getting results from it. Because as a collective consciousness, as you put energy into it, it will build and it will create stimuli back. And then you start to say, holy shit, Superman is here. We bow to you, Superman. And why is that? Because that's what religion is. People don't seem to understand that's really all religion is. It's not saying that everything is false. It's just saying that what is your perspective of what is real.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that sounds like manifestation. See, I feel like I understand things on more of a energetic level or frequency. Like, I'm kind of with Luke, though. Like, I don't know what to believe, but I feel, you know, I feel it within me more. So I guess that makes sense.
Well, and I think the thing for growth, guys, is, you know, and I don't know your guys' full background, but let's say you grow up, you know, in the Abrahamic faith, you grow up Christian, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to still like those stories, like the Bible. The Bible's a fascinating story. I know.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's weird for me because I'm a devil worshiper. So when a lot of people hear me bring up the Bible, they say, "Wait a second, oh, that's blasphemy. Oh, boo!" Like all these weird Satanists out there and shit that boo me. I'm like, no, I think some of the best knowledge in the world is from the Bible. And it's weird to me when someone worships Satan, but then they're like, we don't like Christianity. I'm like, but Samael or Satan comes from Hebraic faiths and Christianity. So like, literally the character you worship is only known because of the faith that you demonize. It's just weird. But start to look at other religions. Read the Bhagavad Gita from Hindu beliefs and realize that it is a book equivalent of the Bible. It is beautiful with all kinds of allegorical meanings in it that will change your life just as the Bible will. Go back and read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And read the Upanishads and read all these different books. Read like the Sefer HaBahir and the Sefer Yetzirah and the Raza Rabbah and Judaic faith. When you start to read these books, you find all these other texts that you never heard about, your own faith never told you about, but they're all equally as pivotal as what you've been taught to believe is like the only book. It's the only book. Well, if you want to look at the only book, let's talk about the fact that that only book has been written by hundreds of hands over thousands of years. And let's talk about the fact that it's been translated and translated and translated and reinterpreted a million times. Let's talk about the fact that there's been major things taken out of it, things put in it, and things changed and altered on purpose. The Council of Nicaea in 325 AD decided what would be taken out, what would be put in, how would they reword things. They also created the apostolic succession, where you could only be a true, in at least the Catholic sense, you could only really be indoctrinated into this faith as a priest from a priest who was indoctrinated from a priest, and it all came from the apostles. Well, prior to the 325 Council, the Nicene Creed, there wasn't the apostolic succession. That wasn't the case. So there's a lot of things as you go back and start researching that they changed and changed and changed and altered and changed. Well, what you can sit there and say, well, my faith is rock solid. Well, your faith has been altered 5 million times over thousands of years. So what it was 2,000 years ago when Jesus supposedly walked the earth is sure as hell not what it is now. So how can you say that your faith is the only one and it's rock solid without question? Because 200 years ago, those people would have looked forward and said, you're not practicing Christianity. People now would look back and say, that's not what we practice. It's ever evolving, ever changing for good or bad. So be open to it, study it, but look at other books, look at other faiths, look at other practices, and you'll start to find things that resonate. And that's okay. It's okay to have syncretism. Syncretism means that you're bringing in pieces of all different faiths into your belief. Spirituality shouldn't be a flock thing. It should be an individual thing. Your God, your faith, your practice is yours. Doesn't matter if your neighbor agrees. Doesn't matter if your best friend agrees. It's faith. It's your faith. And that's what's the problem with the world is they teach you that like you need to be the herd mentality. Everybody should share in this faith. Everybody should think the same way. Bullshit. No, I have beliefs that are very radical than most of the populace. But it's mine. I don't care if you agree. I don't care what you believe in. You believe in you. But at the end of the day, I'm going to do me because it's the faith that has saved me. It's helped me ascend. It's helped me grow. And that's all that matters. Everyone should have that much confidence in love and passion for their own beliefs.
Yeah.
Without spitting it in other people's faces.
Right. Or shoving it down their throats.
That's the biggest thing.
There you go.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's all an independent journey. And I think that we try to conform ourselves to other people's beliefs. I mean, even like we were just talking about this with Daniel. Growing up, we take on other people's beliefs without even realizing it. And it might not even be like we read between the lines. For example, maybe your parent might say, oh, you need to do a little bit better in this particular subject, and your thought is, oh well, I suck. Then you take on that belief, but that might not be what they were trying to say.
Yep. No, and that's it. Like I said, that's all just a part of that programming that we get programmed in so many different ways. Like I said, just mere stimuli itself, to what people say to try to lead you. You know, parents teach you what's right and wrong. And I'm a big firm believer, and this gets into some radical beliefs, and I don't expect everybody to believe this, but I think everyone should go through dissolving not only their ego, but dissolving the world in a sense, where then you rebuild up from the ground up. Sure, laws are in place, right? We're all supposed to follow the law, but who says? Because the laws are merely the matter of group consensus. What specific people given power were told, you know, or had come together and said, this is a new rule that the populace follows. Well, maybe that benefits 1/3 of the populace, but 2/3 don't agree. Well, it doesn't matter, because the men in power said that's the rule, right? So when you start to look at it, you're like, we're governed by right and wrong. How often do you go to do something and someone said, you can't do that, that's wrong? Says who? Says who? Well, that's against the law. Yeah, a bunch of old fucking men made this law up and told me I can't do it, so I'm just supposed to automatically fall in line because that's their beliefs and not mine. Now, folks, I'm not telling you to break the law, guys out there. But what I am telling you is that you have to, or you should, deconstruct everything and then reconstruct your moral system, your beliefs. There are things that I believe that other people would think is insane, but there's things that other people on a daily basis tell me I believe in that because I've been taught to believe in that. And I'm like, bah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm listening to you and I'm like, how ridiculous is that though? Like, I don't, we came from the woods and the forest. We lived as wild people. Now we're so domesticated, like house cats and dogs. We're so afraid to step out of the box because we have to check mark all of these boxes or else, you know? No, motherfucker, I'm still a wild Indian in the woods. And you know what? I still conform to society because we're here and there's really no escaping it that easy anymore. But the savage is still within me. And I think everybody needs to keep that warrior spirit because, you know, we come from a culture now. Obviously, everybody's offended about everything. And in cancel culture, no one can be offended anymore. Says who? Everyone should be offended. Everyone's getting it. And that's the thing is, like, there's times in my life, certainly I've gotten offended, but if you're getting offended by something, that's the perfect opportunity to stand back and reflect on your own shit and say, why did that hit me so hard? I got stuff inside me I need to work on. Don't let me project it on you who said it, because once again, words can't make you feel something. Only you can. You said words I didn't like for some reason or another, and I reacted to it. Why is that? That's a trauma that I need to heal. And that's how people should analyze it. But no. Today you said something I don't like. I'm like, I'm going to turn you in. I'm going to get you fired. I'm going to get you canceled. I'm going to get your career ruined. Like, that's insane to me. Like, you know, if you're that much of a pussy, blame your parents because they did you an injustice for raising you this way. Shouldn't be that way. I never cared about cancel culture. I never will.
That's I never really got into that either. I live and let live, you know.
I mean, there's a difference if you purposely are going out to offend. Like, if you're someone's like, I'm going to say everything in my power to offend everybody, well, then that person should also reflect, what is your damage that you need to upset so many people to feel good about yourself? But I mean, in every day, just being a real individual, being raw, and then people are like, oh, he said something I didn't like. Well, good, bitch. I'm glad. I want you to not like it. Go reflect. Go meditate.
See,
find yourself.
I feel like I live life trying my best to not offend people, and it sucks.
Don't, man. See, here's the thing. I have a professional career. I'm a professional guy. I always say I'm raw professional. I said it on a podcast recently. People started laughing. I says, well, it's the truth. I says, I will help you. I give good knowledge. I give quality material. So in that sense, I put professional stuff out. I'm a nice guy. I'll give you the shirt off my back. I'm a professional in that sense too. But I'm not professional in the sense that so many people I know are walking on eggshells. And, excuse me, the beer's loading me up. Walking on eggshells, and they're like, well, I believe this. And instead of going the whole way over here, I'll just do this right here where my fans will understand it. they won't get offended. It's not exactly the way I believe, but it'll serve its purpose. I'm like, no, man, I'm 100% authentic. What you see is what you get. If you like it, thank you. I'm glad. I always say take what resonates, discard the rest. I've had fans who have been major followers of my show in every episode, comments all the time, loving me, and then all of a sudden they vanish. And then like 6 months later, you come across them and they're bad mouthing me. They're like, fuck that guy. They're like, oh, they're talking all this trash. And I'm like, I wonder what sentence I said that caused this. What one thing did I bring? You were always with me. You always loved all the things I said until that one thing struck a nerve with you. And then all of a sudden they'd like, I'm not his fan anymore. Like, that's sad. We live in a world where one time you're offended. I think as adults, we should be able to have the power to offend one another, to argue with one another, to disagree with one another. You can have a very different political view and religious view than me. We can still be best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
The key to it is not talking about it all the time. Like, I don't want to sit down and talk about politics with you. That's once again, that's your personal belief. If we're in a group conversation, let's share ideas with each other, sure. But let's just live our lives and have your own personal beliefs. But I feel like too often we try to find the differences in one another instead of finding the commonalities. And there's been a shift in consciousness, and it's not always good.
Oh yeah. How about we talk about some of your paranormal encounters and favorite paranormal things?
I'll tell you one that no one's ever heard, a brand new one, if you guys want to hear it. And Luke, this concerns your father. So guys listening out there, guys and girls, I don't want to offend anybody by just saying guys. Jesus Christ, he didn't include the women. But no, we got back this past weekend from Circleville, Ohio. Very cool little town. Fun fact that we learned while we were there, side note, Circleville, Ohio has the most trains that go through it in any 1 hour and the most trains in any 1 24-hour period than any town in America.
That's
Did
wild.
not know that. And the last time I was there, I don't think I even realized there was trains going through Circleville. So that I spent a whole weekend there, and I think I might have heard one train. So I don't know how this happened, but this time, seeing like 400 trains in like 2 days, it was insane. But we spent 2 days at the Octagon House. We had an Airbnb. The group was super stoked. I rented out an 1835 historic home in Circleville. It was like a mansion. And when I say mansion, it was like legitly a mansion. So they thought we were just getting like this regular Airbnb. We show up and walk into like fucking the Resident Evil castle. And they're like, what is going on here? I'm like, I figured we'd have a fun weekend. So we spent the weekend at Circleville. First night, we got activity. Tom, Luke's father, was the first one to go in on a solo on his own. He was standing upstairs. He has a video of him standing completely still. Multiple footsteps are walking right in front of him and around him. He even at one point in the video says, as you can see, guys, I am the only one up here, and I am not moving, and you can hear that. Listen. And you hear doof, 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 right in front of him.
Wow.
So, you know, really good footsteps, really good movement in the building and stuff of that nature. First night wasn't that crazy, though. I mean, that's always fun. But the second night, guys, I've been investigating for 20 years at this point, almost exactly 20 years. And I can say that I've never experienced this. So the second night started out, we were doing our normal stuff, a little bit of bumps and knocks here, footsteps there, you know, everything's going good. Turn the spirit box on. Night before, we got nothing. Actually, hold on, let me take a step back. Night before, the only thing we did really get, through the spirit box, we heard get out. Natasha, who's a part of our group, said, did you just say get out? And I heard something moving upstairs, so I cranked my ghost box down to 0. And upstairs, we did hear a disembodied voice out loud say, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it was super clear. All of us were like, oh, shit, okay. That's really the only thing that happened the first night. Footsteps, the yes, and the get out on the ghost box, which is substantial, but at the same time, the longer you do this, the more you're like, no, we need more. So night number 2, it went bonkers. Night number 2, if the spirit box was sitting on the ground or on a table, it didn't happen. If the spirit box was in anyone else's hand, it didn't happen. When the spirit box was in my hand, over and over and over again, and for about 2.5 hours that night, we got the most intelligent and most powerful correspondences of any one spirit box session I've ever had in 20 years.
Mhm.
Now, when I say this, it came through at first, and I believe it was the spirit of someone very, very religious or a preacher. And the
Mhm.
reason I say this is normally a spirit box goes, and you'll get the voice in between there, like, is there someone there? And through that, you hear, yeah, right?
Mhm, yeah.
How we're used to it. That's
Yeah.
not what happened. We were saying, is there anyone here right now? You know, can you tell us your name? The way it was corresponding with us was not through audible voice answers of a person in the
Mhm.
normal sense. It was answering our questions through the lyrics of individual songs back to back.
Oh, wow.
What I mean by this is not just we asked a question and a song came on and it answered us, which is still profound.
Mhm.
There was one point, to give you an example, we asked a question, a song came on, it gave us several words of the lyrics of that song, which answered us, went right to a separate song, right to a separate song. All three of those songs together said a full sentence as you and I are talking right now
Mhm.
through lyrics of a song. Have never seen that before. And it didn't just come out like it normally does. The ghost box would go, stop. And the song
Mhm.
came on. And a song would play for 10 or 12 seconds. Then it would kick right back to right to another song. But I mean, it did this through about 50 different songs that night. Almost all of them, for the most part, were gospel Christian songs. And it was saying things like pretty much along the lines, it didn't like me,
Mhm.
watch out for him. And then I was like, well, what do you want me to do? And then it would come on right to a song instantly. And it would come on and say, you need to find the light. And then it would go
Oh,
off to
wow.
another
Oh,
one.
wow.
And I'm like, and I need to find the light of what? And it would, Jesus Christ is our savior. Over and over. And I mean, my whole group was like, holy shit. And Ken, who's in our group,
Mhm.
he was making requests like a DJ, and the spirit was fucking doing it. So he would say, play me a 1970s classic rock song, right on to like Steve Miller Band.
Wow.
And
Oh,
then
wow.
it would kick right back on. He would say, play me another country song. Boom. Within seconds, right to a country song. Well, then I'll tell you what, play me a gospel. Right back to a gospel. Play me rock again. Right back to rock again. It was literally yanking songs out and dropping them left and right, but not straight to the song, playing it like a DJ, and then it would go back to cycling, and then it would stop again. It was also mixing in commercials and talk shows. But the thing is, it like one point in time, it played about 7 gospel country songs back to back to back within a minute. There's not 7 different gospel stations on FM radio at 1 o'clock in the morning that you could
Mhm.
find in any one given day. I don't think it was pulling from currently live playing music. It is my belief that this spirit was smart enough and powerful enough that it was just pulling songs out of consciousness, songs that exist.
Mhm.
But there's no way you could say, play me 1970s rock, and in 4 seconds later, boom, drop 1970s rock, play me this, boom, drop it over and over. And then the other thing that was weird is it would go forward, forward to something, and then 3 seconds later, backwards to the, but communication wise. So it would give us like a talk show saying a very poignant point that we needed to hear to our question. And
Mhm.
then we would ask another question. It would jump forward stations to a song answering the next question. And then our next question, it would jump back to that talk show and answer it with another verse from the talk show. There's no way you could line up the correspondences to be that way. It's not fucking possible. It's just not. And it was doing it back and forth, cutting in and out, different requests. It was about 2.5 hours of the most intelligent spiritual correspondences that I've ever come across ever in my life. And I've been fortunate enough to have quite a few. And no one's heard this story yet. This is fresh off the press. This was Saturday evening this past weekend.
Wow.
That's real interesting.
That's
We got it on
wild.
recording. We didn't film it. We have it on audio, but I mean that's
Mhm.
just as valid. We're gonna splice up some sections of it, and and release it. Now, one of the weird things I'll say, and we can move on to anything else you guys want to know, but one of the weird things is we says, what is it you want us to do? And
What did you do?
it cut, it said, what do you want us to do? And it cut onto an article and it says, come on down right now to find out. Down here at our special deal for you. Something along those lines. And then it cut. And I'm like, and it said in street, like 123 Main Street, but it didn't say the town, right? So come down to 123 Main Street for a super deal where you'll find out the truth. And then it cuts. So then we're like, come down where? 123 Main Street where? Second later, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We got something great for you in Lancaster, but it was a different article, different commercial. So it instantly answered us and it connected. So then we said, and this is what makes it even more boggling. I said, did you just say Lancaster? Testing it. Another commercial came on and it said, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, you can find, and we're all sitting and we're like, what is going on right now? We're like, what? There's never, and I'm talking, I know all these different groups. I've been involved in the paranormal for a long time. There's never been any session ever like this. And it was all very religious based, saying I was a blasphemy. I was an abomination. I needed to find the light. I needed to walk into the light. Lord is my savior and I need to find him. And it was like, it would only do it when I was holding it. And it was all directed towards me. Now, Ken could make requests and it would play them, but all of the religious stuff was on me. And even my group members were like, all right, you need to kind of back off a little bit on him. He doesn't believe what you believe. And the things like, find Jesus over and over again. It was wild. It was like, it was some spiritual Bible Belt preacher that was like, I don't like this guy and I'm going to preach to him. So that was Saturday night.
That's cool.
That's wild.
What would you say
across the face? So I'm guessing he really didn't like me.
What would you say your favorite location is?
That's a tough one. I like different places for different reasons. One of the first ones that will always jump right off the top of my head is Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, just for the fact that the sheer size of it, the history of it, the structure of it, and the architecture is just mind-baffling. I mean, it's such a beautiful and wild building that you'll never see anything like that again in the new world. Like in this world, you'll never see a building built like that again.
I agree.
Now, I've seen some pretty wild stuff there too. So, I mean, it's been a very powerful location, but you know, sometimes the most unassuming, some of my favorite places have been places that no one even knows about. I mean, places that I go to on my own privately that are just off the beaten path in the woods, or just an old little part of a town that one of my favorite authors, Carlos Castaneda, he would talk about in his books about places of power. Those are places of power where they're unassuming. Most of the world walk by. It might just be a park bench, a random park bench that no one ever sits in for some reason. Why does no one ever sit on that bench? Well, that's because that bench is like a portal to another dimension. And people, for some reason, always walk by because they don't feel like, I don't want to sit on that one. I'll go sit on that one. But there's little places like that. But I mean, as far as known locations, Trans-Allegheny, like I said, is definitely up there. I've had wild experiences at the Bel Air House. I doubt that I'll ever be back to the Bel Air House again in my lifetime, but I've had some pretty wild, experiences there. Trying to think of what else might be a great place. Bill Manor. I will say that Bill Manor, I've been there only once for 2 days last year. I'm going again at the end of this year. Has been one of my favorite locations as well. It's on the other side of Ohio, Fairmont, I think it's Fairmont, Ohio. Very old orphanage house. It's they're very intelligent there too. The spirits are beyond your normal intelligence, like full-blown conversation intelligence. Someone was murdered there. They don't tell you that. We discovered that. Someone was murdered in that house, and the spirit of the person who was murdered came through and told us who did it, how it happened, when it happened, why it happened, all of that. No one's ever got that before.
Wow.
I told the owner of it, and he's like, that's really wild. You said that because X, Y, Z, and gave us some other things that happened over time. He's like, your story lines up with that with so much more detail. I says, yeah, the kid that died in the orphanage wasn't an accident. I was like, he was pushed from one of the other kids who was an orphan at the orphanage because they both had the hots for a nighttime nurse that worked at the orphanage. and the other kid was jealous and pushed him head first down the stairs.
Oh, wow.
And I gave pieces of information I couldn't have known to the guy that owns the building now. And he's like, well, in my records, actually, some of the stuff you said matches dead on. I was like, well, I'm not making this up, brother. I'm like, the spirit was very pissed off last night and telling me so much so that we ask, what is it you want us to do? And in just clear cut sense, it told us it wanted us to find such and such who pushed him and end him.
Oh, wow.
It got a lot deeper than that, but we'll just keep it short and easy. You know, what is it you want from us? And it was like, find him and end his life for what he did to me. And it told us how old this guy was now, what state he lives in, and he has a family. Like, I'm talking wild shit. It told us 60 years later, this guy lives in this state. This is his name. This is how many kids he has. They're like, go fucking kill him. And I'm like, I'm not going to kill him, man. I'm cool. But
did you ever like look him up and see like if it's like a legit person?
I tried to. I couldn't find him. The name was one of those names where, you know, you don't come across the results you want. If your name is something radical, you'll probably find him. But when it's something like Johns, you know what I mean? You're like,
there's
a million Johns.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Is it was something we have it written down in our logbook. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, he was very specific. I was like, well, where would I even find him now? Now, don't quote me on the state because it's in the book. But I said, you know, where would we even find this guy? And it's like New Hampshire. It was like instant New Hampshire. I'm like, oh shit, he knows. He's tracking him down. I'm like, he wants him done.
He's been keeping tabs.
But that was one of my favorite places, and it was crazy because I do tarot readings, and so does Natasha, and what we were doing is we were doing dowsing session with tarot. So she was using the rods while I was throwing tarot cards left and right. I would shuffle, throw down 3 or 4, shuffle, throw it down 3 or 4. I think like 15 times we threw down the same exact cards over and over.
That's interesting.
Like the possibility of throwing, and if anything, it would be 1 card different, 3 of the 4 the same. We'd shuffle, throw them down. It might be a different hand this time. Okay, we're getting different cards. Well, then we'd shuffle and throw them down. It's the first set again, and then we'd shuffle and throw it down. It's that second set again. We were only getting a total of like, I would say 12 different cards the whole weekend. So 4 each time, roughly, is how I do mine. We were getting 4 and 4 and 4 and 4 and 4, and it was always the same cards mixed and matched in the sets, but it was always judgment, death, justice. It was always cards that was saying like, I want justice, I want redemption, I want judgment, over and over and over again. And I'm like, oh, it was profound.
We'll have to do that next time we go out, Luke. I'll bring my deck, and we'll try using tarot cards. That'd be interesting. We've never tried that. Never thought about that.
It sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't do much. It's just like a regular reading in the house. But we had that happen at the Ross house in Bel Air, Ohio, which is just a couple of streets down from the Bel Air house in Bel Air, Ohio. We started doing a session and we threw down a reading, and the reading was pretty clear cut. We were talking to a spirit. I think his name was Tommy or Timmy. Tommy, I think it was. And no one really mentioned Tommy at this location. And then since then, people have been mentioning Tommy left and right. Like everybody goes, there's like, Tommy came through. We don't know why that happened, but Tommy told us in the card readings that there was a love affair of someone he loved that cheated on him, and he killed himself. Whoa. And it was like, the readings were, it was clear cut. I mean, that's what it was telling us. We threw them again. It was telling us that we were getting different readings, but it was all the same reading over and over and over again. And then we started getting them through the spirit box shortly afterwards. He amplified. We were getting other things. And then other groups since then started getting things that matched up with that. They're like, we have this Tommy guy coming through saying there was a love affair. And it was just another one of those ones where the cards and the stories we were getting as information we didn't know. And no one knew, and then it ended up coming into light that is the case. Excuse me. But we try not to research the places, and we also don't take the tours. So when they're like, "Do you want us to take you on a tour?" No, thank you. Or if you do, just show us the rooms. Don't tell us what happened in the rooms. Don't tell us the history. We like going in blind to locations. I don't want to know nothing. And then we'll figure out at the end, and we'll reach back out to you after we're done with our analysis and say, we've talked to these spirits. This is the story that we got. Does any of this make sense to you? Sometimes people say none of it does, but they might not know all the history that's happened there. We also could be wrong. But there's a lot of times they're like, well, no, several things you said is definitely things that relate here. And we didn't tell you the story at the beginning. And I'm like, and I promise you, I didn't research it. I don't look into any of that. I don't watch any ghost shows. So even people could say, well, maybe you watched that on, Paranormal Fear or whatever the fuck these shows are called. I have never, but maybe once or twice in my life, ever watched a paranormal show. It's just never been my thing.
Yeah.
And that strikes people as weird because they're like, you're in the paranormal. I'm like, yeah, I do this for me. I don't care about the Hollywood shit. So it's just interesting how that'll happen. But yeah, the cards can be, when they work, when it connects to the cards, it's wild. It'll be very profound.
Interesting. I know we're coming up on our time, but I was curious about something. Earlier you had said about making pacts with these entities and things. Is it possible to accidentally and I'll explain why I say accidentally. Well, I guess it really wasn't accidental. I guess there was some intent. So whenever I was younger, I would always look up spells and things like that online, and I would do these rituals in my computer room trying to bring on spirits and things like that. But it was more of the curiosity, is to see if there's something really out there.
I mean, you can. The pacts are a little bit more detailed. So, I mean, when you're making a pact, it's kind of a clear-cut intention. So, a lot of times, a pact is kind of what most people would consider selling your soul, but you're not selling your soul. I mean, you should never just call a spirit the first time and make a pact right then and there. What a pact would be is, let's say I'm working with Asmodeus. Asmodeus is a very powerful ancient demon, very powerful spirit, king of the demons. If you're working with that energy, there's no doubt when he comes that he's there. I mean, for people that listen out there that think like, oh, this is all fantasy and this and that, that's okay to believe that. Believe what you want. But I will tell you that once you summon and conjure a spirit properly and they show up, there's no doubt. And if you never experienced it, you can't understand. But when they show up, you will know when they show up. The atmosphere changes. The feeling changes. You will see things and hear things and experience things you just can't comprehend. And you do that several times. You make that rapport with that spirit. You work with them. You connect. You talk. You make offerings. You make gifts. After a while, once you really connected and your energies are good, you can then make a contract. And that's really what a pact is. I am willing to do X, Y, and Z for you, Great Spirit, in return for you doing A, B, and C. Yeah. And it can be as simple as, I am willing to give up smoking. I don't smoke, but I'm willing to give up smoking. I am willing to go to the gym every day for 6 months, and I will not fail. If I fail you, there can be repercussions. Yeah. But it can be different things where I will publicly talk about you, such as Asmodeus. I will make sure that whenever I'm bringing up examples, you're the one I bring up examples for the next year or two. So that I'm getting your name out there. I'm putting your name into the minds of all of your listeners and to you too. And that might seem minuscule, but now it's planted. And now when and people hear that, so you are constantly living in the collective unconscious, Great Spirit. I will make sure you're out there. And by me going to the gym every day, I am feeling pain. I'm sore. I am giving you my pain. By me quitting cigarettes, I'm suffering mentally as well. I am giving you that pain. So I am sacrificing my pain, my time, my energy to you, but I'm also publicly promoting you. And I will give you on every new moon a large feast with meat, with potatoes, with fruit. You do these things and you're like, in return, I would like this, this, and this taken care of. Do you agree to this? Now, like I said, a lot of people think that sounds fantasy. Oh, no, it's very real. But the thing is, you have to learn how to do connection. You have to learn how to do transhypnagogic states of trance to be able to tap into spirits. You have to learn how to scry properly. They don't just pop up in your living room. They're like, I'm here. You conjure them. You go through getting that energy in your room where you know it's there. And then you either go into deep meditation where they will communicate with you in meditation. You can use smoke, but that's a very hard medium to use. Scrying mirror would be the easiest, where you stare in long enough and that spirit will show up in the scrying mirror if you're connected properly. And it will either talk to you out loud, or it will talk to you through your mind. And you will legitly, if done properly, hear a different voice other than your own talking to you, and you can think the thoughts and ask a question, and it's instantly answered by something foreign to you, and you are connected on a stream of consciousness back and forth. And that's how you communicate, and you can make those pacts, and it's can be very, very lucrative and fruitful. But if you fail at what you've promised, it can be very, very dangerous and bad for you.
Yeah.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
Right. Yeah, that I was itching to ask. Sorry, I feel like I took us way off topic. Well, not way off topic, but
No, it's all right, man. Hey,
we had a good
no
flow.
Specific topic with me on the show.
But yeah, I think we're coming up on our time. Did you have any other questions or anything, Luke?
No. Thank you for coming on. We'll have to do this again some other time and talk more crazy
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. Sorry that first one didn't work out and we had to rebook it, but I'm glad we got through the technical difficulties, and we're here. We had a good time. I appreciate you guys having me, and once again, thank you, and hope both of you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Well, thank you so much.
Keep in touch with you.
Absolutely, guys. You ever have any questions, you let me know.
All right, we'll do.
Much love, guys.
All right.
See ya.
Have a good one.
You too.
Take care.
You too. Thanks for listening to another episode of This Swirling Unknown. We really enjoyed talking to Fraters Crow about his experiences with the paranormal and a whole bunch of other crazy things, I would say. But I thought it was really interesting to hear him talk about his experiences and what he dives into and all his encounters. Podcast mentions. We have links in the description below. Shit, I messed up. I'm gonna start.
I don't know. I think I might just keep it, to be honest.
We have links in the description below with GhostStop and Amazon. If you purchase anything through those links, we help support the podcast. And if you don't want to do that, we have Cash App and PayPal on our website, exploringtheunknownpod.com. You can send a donation to help support the show. Anything helps. We do this all out of pocket. If you would like us to continue doing this podcast, donations will help a lot. In the description of the Cash App and PayPal, if you put in a would you rather question, we would dive into that in a future episode. And we also have a blog on our website. And if you already haven't already, go check out our YouTube, Exploring the Unknown, and subscribe and share it. We'd like to get more subscribers on our YouTube. And PA Bigfoot Camping Adventure, September 6th and 7th at Farmington, PA. Tickets are limited, $50 for a ticket for the weekend. We will be there setting up, recording podcasts, selling merch, and scheduling podcasts for the future.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. We are getting closer to the time. Yes, sir. The last one was fun. PA Missing Legends. I enjoyed that one.
I do too.
Yeah. So, are you ready for this thought-provoking question?
I am.
Okay. So, after listening to Frater Crow's experiences and insights into the occult and his recent experiences, do you think there are certain locations that are inherently possess more paranormal energy, or is it the people who visit them that bring about these supernatural occurrences?
I think it could be both, honestly. Maybe some people are more in tune with the spirit realm, and maybe some locations have more energy. And we heard about ley lines. Maybe some of these places are built on ley lines.
Yeah.
So I think it could be a mixture of both.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think, we know that there are a lot of locations that are just increasingly paranormal, or just have more paranormal activity than most, and these locations are on ley lines. I think that the energy that is emitting from these locations increases the paranormal activity. But I also think that people who visit them can bring about the supernatural, because I think I've told you this before, that whenever you're connected with spirit, or it's almost like spirit can see that you are open to communication.
Yeah.
So they're drawn to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. And maybe like he was saying, a park bench could be one of like where you get the most activity. I think it all depends on where and what happened. Maybe the Veil's thinger or some of these locations.
Yeah. Do you think that different times of the year can affect the amount of paranormal activity that people are experiencing in these locations? Or even weather?
That's a good question. We should have asked him that, and we're doing the interview. Maybe next time we have him on, if we think about asking him questions like that, maybe he might have some answers there. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know, because thunderstorms, the lightning, maybe it changes the energy and has more energy. Maybe the rain brings more energy.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, I got one more question for you. This one's going to be hard to answer. This one's going to probably be the hardest one to answer. Okay? Would you rather spend a night investigating the haunted Octagon House with Fraters Crow, or venture into the wilderness with Daniel Benoit on a Bigfoot hunt?
What would I rather do?
Yeah.
Oh God. I would really like to do both with both people. Both people are awesome, great dudes. I've been on a lot of paranormal investigations with Fraters Crow, and he's always fun to do investigations with. So nothing against Fraters Crow, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Daniel Benoit, because I've been on paranormal investigations with him plenty of times. So I think I'm gonna have to go with Daniel.
Yeah. For me, I don't know. It's a tough one to answer, because I would like you said, I would like to do both. And I think it would depend on who came to me first. You know what? It would depend on who came to me first. I'm a man of fairness.
No, I mean, that's a very hard question. I like both guys. I've met both of them in person. Both awesome guys. But I think I have to go with Daniel, because I've been playing investigations with Frater, and probably would like to do some more investigations with him in the future.
Yeah. Well, man, I don't think I have any more to add to this.
Nope, neither do I.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to another episode of Exploring the Unknown.
See you next week.
See you then.